to go through. La la la. Cool. Right. Thank you everyone for attending our virtual user group tonight. I am your host, McDonnell Jones. I'm here with Tricia Sinclair, and our other partner in crime, Ryan, will be joining us a little bit later on as well. So let's talk about our agenda for today. Intros, you get to hear me waffle about exams and other things, but we've done that now and we've cut that out of this video, so it's all good. First up, we do have two amazing speakers. We have Zoe Wilson and Kevin McDonnell. They're going to be talking about building your Copilot muscle. And honestly, when we started planning this user group and we started talking about, hey, what about a Copilot one? Because, no one's talking about Copilot, are they? We couldn't think of two better people to come here and talk about Copilot than Zoe and Kevin. So I'm very, very thankful that they've agreed to come here and share their expert knowledge with us tonight. We are going to have a short break of probably around 5 minutes, probably around 5 to or around 7 o'clock, depending on when Zoe and Kevin finish. And then after that, we will have, again, our partner in crime, Tricia and I's partner in crime on this UG, Narayan, who will be hopefully giving us a deep dive into AI governance. I say hopefully, like he's not, I can't see him joined yet, so he'll probably join in a bit. I'm very hopeful. Fine. And then we'll have a quick wrap up and things. One thing I would like to do is I would like to thank all of our speakers, all of our sponsors. Sorry, not our speakers. We've thanked them and I'll thank them again. But we would like to thank our sponsors. So we want to thank DidPats, Riada Consultancy, MSCR Mandans, Docs42, Enhanced Kanos, Mazik Global, Cosmo Partner Solutions, and For Good Tech. These are the sponsors that give that enable these events by sponsoring all of them. So not just this virtual event and the infrastructure that goes on behind the scenes in terms of the website and other things, the meetup, but also the rest of the in-person events. So because you're here right now, it means that you're not in Birmingham tonight. Well, I mean, you might be in Birmingham tonight. I don't really know where you live, but you're not at the Birmingham user group tonight is what I'm getting at. We have events all throughout the year, and they're only possible with thanks to our sponsors. And with that, and the reason why I was sharing with sound earlier, I'm going to do my best and try out playing some videos from our sponsors. There are 3 short videos here. Please watch them because these are from our sponsors, and without them, none of this would be possible. So let's see if this works. It's probably going to go. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So thank you. I can hear my voice. Where's my voice from? There we go. Fixed. Great. Now that is a very big thank you to our sponsors, and we will carry on with the show. If you would like to get involved in our community, we're always looking for volunteers helping out on the day, organizing things. If you are interested in starting a user group, we can help support you through the D365 and Power Platform user group. You can use this QR code or that link or go to our website, d365ppug.com, and you can find all the details there, or you can reach out to me. Similarly, if you would like to speak at one of our events, you can sign up using this link, using this QR code, or message any of the members of the user groups, and we'll happily put you in contact with the user groups in your area, or we'll find some way to help you speak with us. A virtual user group, in-person user group, national day user groups, any of these things. Right, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the experts so you can stop hearing me waffle. I'm going to hand this over to Kevin and Zoe, who are going to be talking about building your Copilot muscle. Over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Matt. Let's hopefully bring up the PowerPoint Live. Look, PowerPoint Live works, Zoe. We're not going to have to do next slide, please. You are on mute at the moment, though.
Yeah, awesome. One word. That's all you need to hear.
So we're going to talk today about building your Copilot muscle on there. And before we get into what that means, let's do some intros. Zoe, do you want to kick off, intro yourself first?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. Good to see all of you here. There's some familiar faces, but lots of people I don't know. I work at Kyndryl, where I lead our global modern workplace consulting practice. I'm an MVP, regional director, and Kevin and I co-host a podcast called Copilot Connection.
And I'm Kevin McDonnell. I co-host a podcast called Copilot Connection, which is very helpful. Got 3 new subscribers today, Zoe. That everyone keeps seeing my mic. I've moved my camera and people keep asking about it. So I've been doing some really shameless plugs on that one. So I work at Avanade, where I look after Copilots and agents for the whole of the UK, especially for our lovely relationship with Accenture from that. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk a little bit about Copilot and agents and what we mean by that. I think it's fair to say, I don't think we put this in here, Zoe, but we haven't said which Copilot, which feels like a phrase we haven't had to say so much anymore. We seem to be focusing on the different things. But I remember in the early days talking a lot to people and chatting for about 5 minutes or so for realizing actually we were talking about 2 entirely different Copilots, which is always entertaining. We'll then talk a bit about how you build your Copilot muscle on that, talk a little bit about the prompting tips, go into some practical examples and do some demos. I've managed to get some that I can show Zoe, but we'll talk about some ideas about how you build up your prompts and use that on there as well. Then going to go a little bit into value, because I think it's fair to say you don't hear it so much anymore, but Copilot's not a cheap investment when you're looking at your licenses. So what is the value? What is the benefits you'll see from that? And we'll talk a little bit about how you can find out more as well. Kind of live demos. I've just run them now, so I'm going to have a quick look when Zoe's speaking in a minute on there, rather than sit there and go play. Wait for that to load. So we're going to try and avoid that, just to be a little bit quicker from that side on there. Now, I do have one really important thing. Those observant may have seen it behind my head, but before we start, a really important message. Please. It is Copilot with a capital C and lowercase after that. There are no hyphens. There's no capital P's and things in there. You may be a fan of SharePoint and PowerPoint and think it has a capital P. That's fine, but it doesn't. And especially any of you working at partners talking about being Copilot experts, please spell it right. Please, if you're putting together a message, do spell it at least consistently on the same slide within there. And if you see other people spelling it wrongly, please call them out on it, especially Microsoft on there. So I'm just going to
sorry, Kevin, can I just interrupt? I don't know if you've seen what Trisha wrote in the chat, but Trisha, I just want to say you can go off people, you know.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that's just awful. Just unnecessary on things like that. So yeah, I have been known at Avanade. I'm known as the person who will correct it. Was on a Dragon Copilot call today and asked them to rename it, which people were kind of a bit blank. And I was like, look, if we are experts, then we need to on there as well, or at least please consistently. Anyway, I will stop ranting too far about that, because I want to talk a little bit about the short history. I forgot this one was animated on there, so and that we never fixed the animation on there. So I'm just going to go straight into it. We're not going to spend too long, because hopefully many of you know this, but we had back in 2015 when OpenAI was formed as a non-profit, simpler times, really focus on the open source and things on that, and they still do have that kind of open source research element. If you're reading the news, possibly not getting the support it should at the moment, but it was there to kind of have the betterment. And then in 2019 they changed that structure. 2020 we had GPT-3 released, and then in 2022 ChatGPT became the fastest ever growing service. And I remember speaking with Zoe back then going, wow, this is really powerful. Imagine what you could do with that. I started building things in. I've still got this kind of side project that I'd love to have the way that we can have a kind of simulated M365 environment. I was thinking about, in fact, Viva Insights was the reason I wanted something that could run and we could use for demos and things on that. And I just love the power and natural way you could do this. But imagine if you could have that built into M365 and the tools, the Teams, Outlook that you're using day in. Oh, and Satya Nadella came along and actually made my dreams come true, and M365 Copilot got released. And there was a lovely phase where, was it 188 different Copilots I think we had at one point, Zoe, so there was ones all over the place. I kind of feel that story started to kind of cement down a lot of consolidation of the different Copilots. And I think agents has come along to simplify that as well. And that really was that 2023 when Power Virtual Agents got renamed as Copilot Studio and became that low-code way of extending and doing more with your Copilots. And then in 2024, what was then Azure AI Foundry, now Microsoft Foundry, got launched as the pro-code alternative. And the thing you find in Microsoft, they pull lots of things in different directions, but we're gradually mostly seeing that consolidation and working out what works well and going ahead with that. But why has there been so much investment? Why are people so excited about all this capability? And I have an answer. It's goddamn Clippy's fault. Because back in the 90s and 2000s, this little paperclip would pop up and offer help all the time. And it promised so much of being able to do things. It promised all the things that were a pain to make life easier. It knew when you were most vulnerable. But it would tell you the wrong thing, or it wouldn't actually do the thing you wanted. So people started switching it off, and it just got relegated to, if I just reach back here, a little bit of the heart. I still have my Clippy here on a regular basis on there. But it kind of inspired people to imagine if you could do that as well. Imagine if those things were possible. And coming back, especially, I assume most people here are based in the UK on there. We hear from the government, we hear that there's productivity problems everywhere on that. We've got too many meetings that are overblown. People spend too long doing stuff without direction. And admin became the dominant force. As the office world's become bigger and bigger, we didn't actually get more efficient with all these tools. We just got more processes driven by egos. We felt we could do more with the tech, but really, we're just being pushed to make more money. And then Sam Altman and his friends came along, and suddenly we had this new way of doing things. And suddenly, Clippy actually felt like it could be real. And we have these C-suite that wants easy solutions to actually make money from it. And suddenly this productivity could disappear. And you think, oh, maybe we can do more with less from there. So what is Copilot being driven by? It's people wanting to be more productive, and it's people wanting to find ways to make more money from there. Yes, I am in a slightly cynical mood from this as well. But then Satya kind of announced, I think it was Build last year, that Copilot was the UI for AI. It became that single front door. And for me, this is why Copilot is still relevant, because there's all these capabilities that are being made, all these different things you can do. But for the end user, there's a pretty much a single place, certainly when it comes to M365 Copilot, where you can go in and see this capability. You might not always see those big changes that taken place. You might not even see, in this case, all the different agents that are starting to connect things together in the background, because you just need to know, what do I need to get done from that? What is it that I want? I can bring my Copilot Studio agents, my Foundry agents. I can link all these different things together, all into that single front door from it as well. And it's more about it. The habits that you need to change is the habits to start using Copilot, and you can get so much from that. So really, the question is, how do you actually use these tools to become more effective?
And I think that's a fantastic question. And one of the things that people often overlook when it comes to driving transformation with Copilot is the human element of it. Particularly in the first couple of years, I know Kevin and I both spoke to lots of customers who had turned Copilot on, and they were complaining that they were not seeing the ROI because people were not using it. And there are a few reasons for that. If we look at something like GitHub Copilot, one of the reasons why that is so successful, apart from the fact that it's 2 years older than a lot of these other newer Copilots that have come out since the launch of ChatGPT, but one of the reasons why it's so successful is that it integrates into the flow of work. It shows up natively and intuitively inside that developer workflow. And when we look across M365 Copilot and agents and some of the other Copilots, there are so many different ways to use it that individuals need to find the way that they can use it specific to their job and their ways of working. And there are some really important things that you need to recognize with this. First of all, using Copilot is a choice. You can give someone a license, or you can deploy the free version of Chat to them. You can give them a license for the premium version, but it is up to them whether they actually use it or not. It's discretionary. And one of the reasons for this is that it's not one size fits all. Rolling out Copilot to an organization is not like a traditional adoption program for technology, because it's not a case of just showing people some training material and saying this is how you're going to use it. This is a tool that integrates into the way that we work. It's very deeply personal to each of us. And we all have very different ways of working. And I was looking, I did a session earlier at work on my career journey and realized that, I think it's like 24 years I've been in the working world now. And before that, through my teens and when I was at university, I was on computers a lot. So what that means is I probably got more than 30 years of working on computers, of creating documents, of learning habits for how I communicate, how I collaborate. The way that I run my meetings is going to be different to how Kevin runs his meetings or how Trisha runs her meetings. The way that I deal with my to-dos and my actions and keep track of the things I do. We will all have different ways that we manage this, that we have built up through the course of our working career. So people can choose to use Copilot, and for them to be able to choose to use it, they have to see the value that is specific to their role. They have to find the benefits in a way that they actually see it delivering value to their ways of working. And ultimately, what this means is they need to build and train their Copilot muscle. If you think about those productivity habits, essentially what we've done is created a muscle memory. In my case, more than 30 years of looking at my emails and creating documents and things like that. So there's this really deeply ingrained way of working and this muscle memory that I've built. And sorry, you distracted me with a comment about the mirror, Kevin, which I'd never noticed before, despite using this picture for about 18 months. In case you couldn't tell, that is an AI-generated picture. But yeah, so we need to build and train our Copilot muscle. And just to take this analogy a little bit further, in the same way that you can't train for a marathon by watching other people run, you can't build your Copilot muscle without putting in the practical hands-on work. And one thing I see organizations doing sometimes is, they make people go off and don't do loads of training for Copilot before they even give them a license. But actually, people need to get hands-on with it. They need to use it. They need to start to test it with some kind of simple use cases or simple tasks and scenarios, and then find the ways that work for them and start to build that muscle memory and that habit. And this is hard. This is really hard. How many of you have kind of started going to the gym or started training for a 5K or a 10K or something like that and failed? It takes sustained, repeated effort to build new habits. And rewiring that muscle memory, rewiring those personal productivity habits is really hard. So from an individual perspective, the ways that you can do this is start by learning how to use it. And this is the easy stuff that the adoption teams and training typically help with, which is where does Copilot show up? Which apps is it in? What does the user interface look like? How do I create a prompt? Where is it pulling data from? Just start to use it in quite simple ways initially. And as you start to use it more and more, find those quick wins where Copilot can boost your productivity, very specific to something that you have to do for your job. And build new habits. It's going to take time to do this, but build new habits, keep trying new things, keep experimenting and develop your curiosity. And share the things that you're doing with colleagues as well, because if you're in a team with like 10 people, even though you will all have different productivity habits, you might have very similar tasks that you need to do. So the ways that you use Copilot might be slightly different. But by sharing the things that work for you, you can amplify that success across your colleagues as well. And practice daily. You can't just train once and then go run a marathon in 4 months. This needs to be a regular practice where you're looking at how you can incorporate Copilot into your daily routine. And some of the best examples I've seen of people who have done this is where they don't just say, well, I'm using Copilot to help me process my expense receipts. It is people who have really embraced this philosophy, and they have brought Copilot into everything that they do. There was a lady that I used to work with who was such a great example of this, because when I asked, she posted on LinkedIn saying she was, she'd freed up like 5 or 10 hours a week. So I pinged her on Teams and said, would you mind sharing with me how you're doing this? And she had this massive list of examples continuously throughout every single day where she was using Copilot to help her organize her thoughts, She her role was sales enablement, so she was being sent all of these decks by the different go-to-market teams, and she was using Copilot to summarize and create training plans and consolidate, and then push that out to people. And there was tons of examples. This is why I get frustrated sometimes when people talk about use cases for Copilot, because it's not about one use case for how you use Copilot in finance. It is about how you integrate this into all of your productivity habits. And then within an organization, leaders have a role to play as well. I've seen some people where they've been reluctant to embrace Copilot in the way that they need to, because they're not really clear what they're allowed to use it for or what the guardrails are. They're not really clear why management want them to use this. You know, is it a strategy to make 80% of people more efficient so they can get rid of 20%? Is it a threat to them? So for Copilot and agents to be successful within an organization, it's really important that the leaders are able to provide a clear strategy and objective. And companies, this came from a Work Lab report, companies succeed better with AI when leaders lean in and lead by example. And for those of you who might work on the adoption projects associated with Copilot, this is a really great example of something practical that you can do, because I've had this conversation with a lot of leaders and said, you know, look, we need you to lead by example. And they say to me, that's brilliant, Zoe. More than happy to do this. You need to tell me what that looks like. Because again, when we think about productivity habits and how we develop these over the course of our career, people who are in senior leadership roles typically have habits that are even more honed and refined than the rest of us. And in many cases, some of the things Copilot could help with, they actually have staff to do. So leaders have a really key, strong role to play here, but they have to be enabled to do that in the right way. Kevin, very polite, hand up.
I know I didn't want to disrupt your flow there. One thing I love now with Copilot is that it will work with those shared mailboxes, those where you've kind of got your shared calendar with executives, or whether you have ones in your team, then you can still get that power in there. So I've been doing some training with some executive assistants. And I remember when Copilot first came out, it was kind of pointless for them because they could look at their emails, which weren't particularly helpful, as now they can go and look at those they're supporting as well. So really, really big change and can make a huge difference on there.
Yeah, that's a really good call out, Kevin. So within an organization, it's really important that people are encouraged to be able to experiment and that there's space for failure. One of the things that you've probably all noticed over the last 3 years is that the rate of change in this technology area is so fast that there are things that won't work today that will in a few weeks' time. So there needs to be this growth mindset, this culture of innovation, of experimentation. People need to be encouraged to keep trying new and different ways to use this technology. And as part of amplifying that, having a way to track and measure results, leaders giving space to people in their team to share their success stories and examples of what works. This can be a really powerful way to inspire others across the organisation as well. A key part of this has to be your personal trainers or adoption champions. These are people who will help your general users avoid bad form. They'll help them get stronger faster. They will help create power users. And one of the things I've seen work really well is where you get these adoption champions who help people on that journey of starting small with little things and then starting to stack those habits. So you get to the point, like the example I shared, where you've got all of these different ways of working with Copilot and agents woven into someone's day-to-day routine. And in the same way that if you're in the gym or training for a marathon, you might hit a plateau, your adoption champions can help people who hit that plateau in a Copilot adoption context. So if they get frustrated and stop using it, if they start backsliding to old habits, these people can help push everyone in the direction that they need to go. And they can use data to do this. They can look at things like the Viva Insights Copilot dashboard, like we talked about at the start of the call, usage reports, and track this progress. And to Kevin's point about value, track against the value that the organization is looking out for. And lastly, before we hand back to Kevin, just some general considerations for building your Copilot muscle. Like I said already, start small. If you go to the gym and start lifting weights, unless you're, a very big man, it's unlikely you're going to deadlift 100 kilos on your very first day. So start with simple prompts, start light, iterate over time, learn what works for you, learn what doesn't. And as you start to get more confident with this, you can start to put more weight on the bar or start to add more context, more detailed prompts, get more specific. And in the same way that friends don't let friends skip leg day, it's really important to make sure that you're cross-training your capabilities by using different Copilots for different strengths. So like I said, Copilot shows up in lots of different places. Make sure that you're not just sticking in Copilot in Teams as the one place to interact with it, and that you're actually leveraging Copilot in all of the different ways and all of the different places that it shows up. When we think about random workouts, if you just go to the gym and potter around and just do random things every time, it's okay, but it's going to give you random results. The same logic applies when you're looking at Copilot adoption. If you just turn Copilot on, give people a license, give them some training, and then they go off and they all go and do their own thing, you're going to get really random results, and you won't actually be able to track and measure whether you're getting the ROI, the business value, or whether people are actually using it in the ways that you want them to do. And in the same way, you wouldn't just give someone entry into a gym and then expect them to suddenly have like a full body transformation. The same holds true for Copilot. You need a structured plan. There needs to be progression tracking, adaptation. People need to start to get more complex with the things they do. And this is where things like agents can come in and be really powerful in terms of extending those scenarios and use cases. And it needs to be personal to the individual. It really has to work for them. And that's both in the context of their role or their team or function, but also in terms of their personal productivity habits and the way that they work as well. And to bring that to life a little bit, back to you, Kevin, for prompting tips.
Thank you very much. Getting very distracted by Linda's chat in there, which sounds fascinating and on a topic I've been looking at recently. So Linda, promise I'll try and come back to you in a minute. So prompting tips. I find it very interesting, and I hope one day we won't have to bother with this. And I think in the same way when it came to the early days of Google search, you had to know the different techniques, and gradually, I think through a combination of Google improving the way it worked and also our habits in the way we search mean that you don't have to talk about it. I think it will be this. It will get to a point more likely with prompting that it's the same thing on this as well. But for now, what do you need to make a good prompt? And as in life, as in work, as in many things you do, you need a goal. What are you actually trying to achieve on there? Yes, I know you were talking earlier about kind of going through and just having that chat with Copilot. Absolutely. Go and have a natter at it and things like that. But if you want the most effective prompt, especially with a kind of single hit, then work out what your goal is. Make sure you've got to that point. Think about why you need it. And also in this kind of a evolution of Copilot area, think about where you're doing it as well, because that can change things a little bit. I think we're seeing that slightly less. We're seeing more consistency in terms of the way that Copilot behaves, sometimes for good, sometimes for slightly worse. But think about where you are, and it will matter from that as well. I can think of an exact example of that. Zoe, our good friend Phil, I was chatting with, and he said, what was that list of names you needed for something? And so I said to him, it's a good question. At Copilot, what was that list of names that I had? And unfortunately, while that was processing, I asked it a few questions. I think it was so-and-so. I think it was so-and-so. And all Copilot did was find those ones from just that conversation before. So that context of where you are, being a bit more specific on why you need it, where it could be from. So I should have said from a little while ago on that. think about where you're going to get the information from. And if you've got an M365 Copilot license, think about whether you're on that work or web tab. If you want to get something out from the internet, or you want something not grounded on your information, polluted by your dodgy data in many cases, make sure you're using that web chat. I'm very nervous. In a minute, I'm going to do a demo, and I know many of my prompts that I've used quite often with the kids at the kitchen table will be on there, and I'll try and hide as much of the weirder ones as possible. But I use that a lot, but I always make sure I use the web one, because I don't want it either using my work stuff or my own tenants where I have content in. I don't want it trying to ask questions around what are the insights you can get with that, with all my old Viva Insights content that's in there as well. So think about where you're getting that. Think about guiding it to what source of information it could be in there. If you're thinking in your head, what was that answer from that news article I saw? Tell it that it's probably from a news article. Add that extra information on there. And also think about those expectations. How should Copilot meet what you're trying to get from there? What is the kind of output? Do you want it as a one-liner? Do you want this as a table? Do you want it in a bulleted format? Do you want it a poem that you can sing to your kids on there? Tell Copilot that. Guide it onto a little of those things on there. You can get to a longer version to prompts where you could put an example of the sort of response you want back as well. That's a very powerful way to get very specific from that as well. Let's have a think about some example prompt structure. I love this one, Zoe, because this slide I think has been around for quite a while from Microsoft, but it's still quite relevant in there, and it brings those blocks that we've been talking about there. That goal, in this case, I want it to generate 3 to 5 bullet points. I've told it that style. I've given it an indication of how many. Thankfully, I haven't said an exact number because, much like my kids, it doesn't listen to you and will ignore that anyway. But putting on that general feeling of rough numbers, that context, what is it that I want? I want you to prepare me for a meeting. And it's not just any meeting, it's a meeting with this particular client. And it's discussed this certain thing from within there. Where do I want you to get it from? Focus on specific things within that. And also that time frame. Be a little bit aware. Time frames have improved an awful lot. I remember my first in-person MVP summit, the very first session I went to was about how they're improving time frames in Copilot. It's got better, but it's not perfect from that. So give it some indications. Be ready to go a little bit further with that as well. And also the expectations. Please use simple language so I can get up to speed quickly. I like to call this the leadership bit for it. So it's nice and simple and quick for people to take on board from that one as well. So you've given an idea of the sort of thing you want. One thing I'd really add to this, give me one sec. Sorry, I'll come out later. Okay, nothing emergency. That's good. I can't hear any fires going off, so that should be all right. One thing is, it used to be a bit of a kind of one hit. Now we're getting to a point where you can have a conversation with it. So if this doesn't give you what you want, I mentioned there, I keep pointing on my screen. That's not really not helping. If we mentioned since June, and it's either got just the last 4 weeks or maybe it's put older things, tell it. Say, could you try again, but focus a little bit more on these things. You don't need to repeat the whole prompt. In the same way, if you have a summer intern, they might go away and do something, come back and go, great, you've done this, that's good. Maybe refine this and could you do a little bit more on that? Do the same with your Copilot conversations. Be ready to have that chat. So let's... right, where's my screen? I'm going to try and share some of these and make sure I don't share anything too unhinged from there. Zoe, if you can give me a shout, is that looking good size-wise? Let's make it a little bit larger.
Yeah, that's fine.
So here's an example. Write a message about our new onboarding automation tool that we just launched. Okay, what's the tool called that we just launched? What is it on there? Now I have used the web one, so it's going to have no context on my work on there. It's given me those lovely emojis that give you an indicator if you're on LinkedIn and see lots of emojis and those bullet points. Oh, you know who's been generating their stuff with Copilot, as well as those M dashes on there.
I'm going to say I can see an M dash or two in there as well.
Yeah, there's sneaker there. There we go, sneaking through from that one. But it's not really answering things. It doesn't know what the automation tool is. It looks quite nice. I kind of like this, and I have noticed that as the GPT-5 comes in, it's being a bit more intelligent. It's kind of going, oh, here's a short version. Here's an executive-friendly version on there you can tailor. And again, it's starting to hint you down. Maybe there's different things. It's hinting maybe a call to action on there. Slightly different version. We've gone a bit further. I've got more specific. I want a Teams message to let the HR team, so I've said who it's for, know that we've launched this new important tool. I've given a bit more information about keep it informal and helpful. Highlight that it saves time and reduces manual errors on there. Now, again, I did these before. I'm going to be brutally honest. I forgot. I was meant to go back and have a look at these and check they looked all right. But you can see here, it's actually pulled it as a plain text version, which I think is really interesting. It's gone, right, that's going in Teams. I don't want to put too much formatting because that could cause trouble. Let me give it in plain text that I can there nicely, easy and copy and paste into Teams. It's had, because I've given it that context of what I want, it's given me something easier that I can drop straight in from there as well. And then a version, draft an email, maximum 150 words, the HR team announcing the launch. User-friendly but authoritative tone. Reference the attached user guide PDF if needed. I'm just wondering, has it? No, it hasn't mocked me that I forgot to add one on there as well. But it's kind of saying that there's one there that's got through. It's got that structure. It's got that hello. It's given me a subject. It's in a much better position to actually do things from there. One last quick tip I'm going to get to. I was actually doing this. Oh, that wasn't the one I was hoping for. Let me see. Was it this one here? I've lost it now. That's always really good example of no, it wasn't that one. We'll see that in a minute. I'm going to stop sharing on that. What I was going to say is, especially if you're doing longer prompts, so whether you're creating instructions for an agent, whether you're creating especially researcher prompts where you want just a little bit more detail from there, ask Copilot to create you a prompt on that. So ask it to bring together that information that you need, say what you want from it, and the structure it gives is a lot more involved within there. The example I was going to show, and it's actually one I used for training with the execs I was talking about earlier this week, was they wanted to categorize emails on there. Now, I will say Copilot right now can flag emails. It cannot apply categories on there, but it gave a list on there, and they wanted to take their top priority ones. This is what we define as priority. I wanted them to categorize by these things. And that we just put in a couple of lines of one of those slightly longer prompts, but it generated a much longer one that research could use. They've now turned into a scheduled prompt, and it's really helping them get through from there as well. So use Copilot to be better at Copilot from that as well. I'm going to skip through those onto this last one. Again, this is kind of interesting. I'm seeing, if I'm honest, the way Copilot works in Office is sometimes really context aware, sometimes not on that. We're seeing that changing quite rapidly with things like agent mode. So some of these things will work well. Some of these things are evolving not to us on there. But again, you've got some ideas of turn this into a one-page internal briefing. I love that way of rewriting content on there as well. Generate 3 slides explaining the benefits and things on there that you can come through. Where you can, and if you have it enabled, make use of agent mode, because it will iterate through a lot more effectively and guide you through that conversations too. So really useful way there. But
I think
make sure you're getting value from it. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin. The other thing I was going to add there was sometimes things will work in the Office, in Copilot, in the Office clients, and then other times it won't. So I asked Copilot in PowerPoint to create a deck for me just earlier this week. And it created some slides for me, but in the sidebar for Copilot inside PowerPoint, it gave me a link to a downloadable version of the slides instead of actually creating them in the empty slide template that I was in. So definitely some weird behaviors as Microsoft continue to evolve things. We've got a hand up.
Hi, very quick question, Kevin and Zoe. I'm struggling with Copilot. Obviously, I'm using it at work. I think I am working with kind of IT technology for almost like 25 years, so I know a little bit, but I can generate the document. All those things are fantastic, but when we want to use our own templates, like our corporate templates, sometimes we are not able to do it. And I'm as a solution architect in my organization to find a way how we can embed Copilot with our corporate template to kind of been used for design, all other stuff. So do we have any tips?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of an official answer, which is if you look at something like PowerPoint, there is official guidance that you can find on the Microsoft blogs for how to create a PowerPoint template, how to structure it, how to label the different slide formats and things like that in a way that it will be optimized for use with Copilot. And then you're supposed to put that in the organization asset library. And if you want to use organization approved images, you can also put those into the OAL or the org asset library as well with metadata. I think you need to have like 1,000 or more images for this to work effectively. So that's the official answer. The unofficial answer is it's still buggy as hell.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'd say, agent modes gives you slightly better results. So I've seen that get towards things on there. I'm going to hand back to Zoe, but I'm sure I've seen something in the roadmap and I can't find it quickly now, so I hope it hasn't disappeared, about a bit more templated support within there. So I think I'm going to try and dig it out before I make sure I haven't got myself in trouble, but there was something around that I need to dig out that I'll put into the chat as well.
I will reach out to you on LinkedIn anyway and just kind of,
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, then. So if we think about Copilot in the context of driving business value, the first thing I would say is value means different things to different people, to different departments, to different organizations. So at the start of a process of rolling this out, of building agents, extending Copilot, understanding what Copilot value means to you is key. And when we think about organizations who are using Copilot, I think, and AI more broadly, actually, I know we saw a lot of early adopters. I thought that was now the majority of people who'd started this journey, but even just in the last week or two, I've been talking to clients who are very much behind the curve, and they say that they feel like they're not really using it. So as an individual or as an organization, if you haven't started building your Copilot muscle yet, you might be behind those early adopters, but actually you're not that far behind, and it's not too late. But it's important that you start now, and it's important that as part of that you focus on improving AI literacy, the prompting abilities, capabilities, how to write a prompt. It's important that people are starting to build those new habits. And it's not just important for you in your job today. It's important for you to stay relevant in the coming years as AI transforms the expectations that we and employers have in the workplace. And one of the things I'm personally really excited for is as maturity increases, and this is maturity of the products and the way that they work together and our ability to create complex multi-agent scenarios and integrate into all of these different systems. It's the maturity of users, it's the maturity of organizations that are driving these capabilities. What we'll start to see happen as all of these things mature is the complexity of scenarios that we can use this for will increase as well. Because in very simple terms, if I start to use Copilot in a simple way, as I become more confident with it, and I've seen this in action, I'll start to think, okay, well, wouldn't this be great if I could just automate this little bit of my job and pull that into Copilot? And if I build an agent to connect into this other line of business system, and that will just continue to evolve and grow. And when we think about building habits, what we really need is for people to build those habits now and become comfortable with the concept of delegating or offloading tasks to their teams of agents, so that by the time the technology and the agent ecosystem becomes much more mature, people who will continue to be really important have those key foundations of delegation and management and the muscle memory of how to use Copilot in place. And what this will allow them to be is an agent boss.
Did you say agent boss, Zoe? So just for anyone who doesn't listen to Copilot Connection, there is something about the phrase agent boss that makes me want to be sick every single time. I love the theory that we're looking after these agents and managing them, but every time someone says it, all I can think is, sorry, that's triggering anyone.
The funniest thing is when Kevin makes that noise on the podcast software actually thinks it's background noise and tries to take that noise out. So you have edited that back in on numerous occasions.
I do. It takes quite a lot of time, but yeah. I know I listened to Donna Sarker talking about that phrase quite a lot. I felt really ill afterwards.
So, we talked a little bit about adoption and the fact that Copilot adoption isn't like any other product. It's really important when organizations are thinking about their AI strategy, of which Copilot should be part, that they take a people-first approach, that they recognize that adoption isn't going to be the same as it has been previously. They need to build the skills within the organization for things like growth mindset, curiosity, prompting, critical thinking. They need to focus on change enablement, on helping people build this Copilot muscle and the consistent habits. And they need to do this in a way that will support the needs of everybody within the organization. So people have different approaches to learning. The way that they build habits will be different. The way that they retain information will be different. So there needs to be this approach that is not one size fits all, but multi-channel in the way that information gets out. And there needs to be this leadership buy-in where leadership are willing to lead by example and lean in. And it's important for a human-first AI strategy that Copilot and other AI solutions are positioned as a tool to augment the human and not replace the human. Otherwise, humans will just be enormously resistant to the change. And when we think about the organizations that are at the forefront of this, who have been successful, there are a few things that they tend to have in common. So from a foundations perspective, they'll already have M365 rolled out. They'll have a reasonable level of existing adoption for M365. They'll have a reasonable approach to data governance. Doesn't need to be perfect, but they'll have some of those kind of foundational principles in place. When we look at agents, they will commonly have the Power Platform Centre of Excellence in place or Centre of Enablement. They might have an approach to citizen developers. When we think about people, the organisations who are more successful recognise this need to change mindsets, habits, behaviours. They will have a culture that fosters that growth mindset. And typically, they already recognise the importance of change enablement and adoption work streams and might have used these previously for things like Teams or SharePoint. And then the strategy piece is so important. I mean, even just a week ago, I was talking to a client who had basically been told by their SLT that they needed to do more stuff with AI. They didn't have an AI strategy. They didn't understand what their objectives for Copilot were. They'd just been told, we are behind our competition. You, IT, need to go figure this out. So that to me is a huge red flag. And it's important that people understand why they want to use AI and Copilot. It's important that leadership understands this, and there needs to be business sponsorship, because this is not an IT-led initiative. This is business-driven. It is driving business transformation and business outcomes. And when we think about this path to business value, if we think about an organization that's on that journey, one of the things that happens when this is IT-led is it gets into the hands of IT, who then try all of the different ways to break it and prove that it's rubbish. And they'll put blockers in place to stop this getting out. Whereas if we can get this through that pilot and into the hands of real business users, what that allows us to do is to be able to measure the value in a way that is meaningful to the organization, and then drive that adoption at scale and underpin that with the agent strategy to extend this and start to bring in data and knowledge and actions from other systems. And then lastly, and you'll be pleased to know Kevin and I will shut up in just a couple of minutes. Lastly, just to kind of revisit this fitness analogy, don't forget the accessory work. Building Copilot habits, building that Copilot muscle, really important. But as we move into this AI era, it is going to be more important than ever that we have these other non-technical skills. So we talked about the manager of agents and the need to delegate. Critical thinking. There's a really great ESPC keynote by someone called Jamie Teevan, who's the chief research scientist for AI Business Solutions. And she talks about a report that came out last year called that talks about work slop. You'll all have seen AI slop, which is all of the AI generated cat videos with the little cat with a beret going to buy a baguette in France or something like that. You know, all this stuff that people are using AI to create that is just rubbish. There's a word for this when people create it in the workplace, and it's work slop. And if you do not apply critical thinking, if you create work slop and give it to your colleagues, they are going to be like, I think it's 40% less likely to want to work with you again, because you are putting that burden of checking for hallucinations and accuracy onto someone else. So critical thinking, understanding responsible AI. Everybody who uses this has a responsibility to understand responsible AI, and it is it's on all of us and the organizations we work in to understand the responsible AI principles and how to practice them. Workflow thinking, or systems thinking might be another way to think about this. Being able to think outside the bit of tech that you work with and the usual business problems you solve, and start to understand how all of these things fit together and how that might change when you start to apply agentic technology across the top of it. And then generally, just general digital literacy and tool knowledge. The amount of people who are going to struggle as this AI work, you know, this AI world just picks up pace is it's untrue. Anything to add, Kevin?
I was just writing in the chats. If you can't use PowerPoint Live, you're going to struggle with all sorts of other things on this. So, no, I loved. I've put in the chat a link to Jamie Teevan's talk. You cited a couple of things from the New Future of Work report around the work slot. It is well worth a kind of read of that. Of course, if you don't want to read, we did actually about a month ago do a Copilot Connection on this. So check out copilotconnection.com and have a listen to us talking about that. Otherwise, I think getting a wrap up, please do subscribe. Please do thank Matt, Trisha and Naren on this for hosting us on this and for bringing us to this. And I think I'm going to hand back to Matt and say time for a break.
Thank you very much, Zoe and Kevin. Yes, it is time for a break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare my slides. We'll have about a 5-minute break, so if everyone comes back at about 13 minutes past, you can. That's my desktop. There we go. See, I did do the exam. I know how to do these. Let's move all the things. There's a reason why I don't want to use PowerPoint Live though, Karen, which is because we have more videos. So yeah, please go get a break, and if you want to,
Videos with PowerPoint Live. Just saying.
I have 3 videos that I needed to have working in order, and I didn't have time to edit them. So it's old school Windows Media Player. So please go take a break. But if you are here, you can watch our other sponsored videos from our other sponsors. So thank you very much. We'll be back at about 14 minutes past 7 for Narayan.
Thank you.
The future isn't coming, it's already here. And we're the ones building it. At Mazic Global, we don't just imagine change, we create it. Since 2004, we've turned bold ideas into real-world impact. Where technology meets purpose, extraordinary things happen. As a proud Microsoft Solutions partner, we design and deliver intelligent solutions across Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and AI. In healthcare, with Mazic Care and Copilot capabilities, we enable smarter decisions and better patient outcomes. In digital government, we drive trust and transparency. And through Mazic NFP, we help non-profits amplify their mission and impact. With global delivery centers in India and Pakistan, we bring world-class talent at scale. This is Mazic Global, where innovation meets purpose, where the future is already being built.
Fantastic. So, with that, I want to hand it over to our very own Narayan, who's going to go through a deep dive on AI governance. Narayan?
Thanks, Colin. Thanks. How are you? Hello? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I turn my
Okay,
speakers down. I need
fantastic.
to,
Thanks, Matt. Sorry.
need to increase my volume.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to thank Zoe and Kevin for building up a good muscle for the Copilot and the staff, which is an interesting topic, and a lot of things it's been covered. That was quite good. Now, we need to think about, okay, we built the muscle. What next? We got the, feed them protein. We need to shape it up. We need to make sure any damages to be protected, not happen. We need to feed them with multivitamins. We need to do antibiotics, antibacterial, anything kind of a food which can actually feed them up. How we can do that? That's where the governance comes in place. So first of all, just to let you know, I can't see the chat. So if there are any questions, Matt, if you can help me out with shouting out in between, that would be fantastic. So let's start with this. So today's session is all about the Microsoft AI governance. We try to cover up what's available in Microsoft World to protect our Copilot agents, AI agents, whether it's OpenAI or Foundry, anything related to the AI available in Microsoft World. How can we protect it? So myself, Narayan Solanki, I practice as enterprise and solution architect. Typically, you will see me behind the scene all the time, streaming the services. Today, I'm not streaming it because I'm sitting in nice, sunny Caribbean delivering a project. It's not holiday. So this is what I do recently. A lot of customer, I help them with AI governance, implementation of agents, various type of requirement, different industries, including some of those highly confidential and sensitive data handling with the AI as well. And this is where I built up my knowledge. So I thought, let me share this knowledge with everyone. So there are a few agendas we will talk about, but there are a lot of other elements which I have learned while I was at Ignite, and that's something I will try and cover up in terms of the demo. So let's see, we'll pray to demo God. There is nothing much clicking or interacting with the agents or anything else, but we will actually see how the telemetry appears, how the management works, what are the frameworks that are available, how do I get myself upskilled with the frameworks and adoption for the processes and other stuff, and what is available in terms of the materials. So it's not only just like understanding the framework, but what are the checklists available. Probably many of you are aware of cloud adoption framework. I'm not sure whether anyone would like to thumbs up or anything. How many of you know Azure Cloud Adoption Framework? Great, I'm seeing some of the thumbs up, so that's good. If you know this session is going to be a lot easier for you to understand, because there are a lot of things available as now we call AI adoption framework, and it's not far away from cloud adoption framework, but there are some variations has been included, and it's growing. It's not final yet. It's not, I would call it mature yet, but it's getting mature enough. Then we will talk about how we can manage the risk, be biased, and be compliant. So agents we create, there are biggest massive nervousness in the industry is my data secure with AI? And this is where you can come in the picture with the governance and the security knowledge and give the confidence to your customer, to your organization, and say, look, no, there is nothing to worry about. It's just need best practices, just need a better management, need a full support. And what in the previous session, Joey and Kevin mentioned about it, it's not a IT leadership program. It's like, there is a strategically, everyone is to involve, and the business owners, business leadership has to take the responsibility to start with. If it is fall into the IT, in my personal opinion, it's going to be handled as a technical project, so which we don't want. We want to think about each and every pillars of adoption. And then we will look into the governance model that scale with your AI maturity, and we'll do some Q&A if the time permits. So what we have, responsible AI is one of the key phrase we keep hearing, and this is like everyone's responsibility to deal with that, and which we heard in the previous session as well. So there are principles. We will just have a very quick glance of it. What are those, and how we can actually do that practical implementation guidance. So if we look at just a kind of a different block or responsibility type or area or categorization. So this is what we have as a part of the framework. So we call it as a framework for Microsoft Responsible AI Adoption. And that has the principles, that has adoption framework areas, which includes the strategies. And it has a risk management and compliance, and then there are responsible AI standards. So these are the different groups of areas which we actually need to consider when we're actually thinking about the governance. And also, before you start any project, I'm pretty sure if you are an architect, your first responsibility to define best practices, standards, and do's and don'ts, patterns and anti-patterns, and all this kind of definitions you need to put into place, whether it's in a documentation, whether it's in an instruction manual, any other form which your organization can easily understand. So there are principles, which is fairness, reliability, and safety, privacy and security. We're not going to go into too detail here because I'm pretty sure everyone knows, but if you do have any question, please do raise your hand and we will try and go into a little bit deeper. So along with that, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. So this is what we got. I would like to say a little bit more about the adoption framework, and I'm going to give you a link where you can actually learn more about it, because within this 40-45 minutes, it's going to be super difficult to go into the detail. It's a vast subject, and it takes some time to get your attention around it properly, learning about it. So don't feel bad. It just takes time. It's fine, but get it right. As soon as you get learning, try and implement that in practice. So you got AI strategies. So there are various aspects of AI strategies you need to cover up, including data strategy. Data strategy has whether it's going to be implemented, classification of the data, DLP, privacy, and all these kind of factors you want to actually put it down, and how you're going to protect that. Responsible AI strategy, which we just saw the principles. So that principles, we want to make sure how your organization is compliant with that. also, you may want to think like, this is okay in terms of the theory, but by utilizing certain tools or like, Entra or any other Azure tools, how can you enforce those policies? So those are the principles are there. Certain things you cannot enforce with the policies at this stage. We don't know the future. There might be some more policies and some of the tooling will be available to actually control this. But right now, there are a lot of things you can do. Example, privacy and security. So you can actually implement Priva. You can also implement DLP practices. You can implement policies using Entra. You can also implement conditional policies and a lot of other things to protect that AI workload. Now, you might be thinking, how is that possible? This is like agent. This is like AI. It's not like a Azure application. Now, actually, it's turning into that. Like every agent will appear as an app in your Entra ID. And this is what we will show. Like, I will, if there is a time permits, I will show you the area, one of my tenant. I will just use that and show you that, like, how that appears. It's still under preview, but soon you will get that available as a general availability, and you can also gain early access if you like. You can request that. So along with that, with the adoption framework, you also need to carry two critical factors or have the understanding of risk management and compliance. If the things happen, how would you govern it? How would you take care of it? What are the procedures? You need to actually map that, saying like, okay, if the data disclosure happens, what you will do? What are the measures you need to put in place? How are you going to manage it? So like, those are the some of the standard elements available. Now, there is one interesting fact, because when I started learning about it, and there wasn't anything much available about the govern, map, measure, and manage, even not the responsible AI adoption framework. I actually used ChatGPT and Copilot and asked them, what is this? Like, how would you actually map it, this kind of stuff? It's not a major difference at all. If you are following like security practices from the cloud, if you are following like, all the CISO practices and some of the compliance standard like NIST, ISO 27001, and so on, you do get the hint, like, what you need to do. So it's again, ultimately, wherever you look at it, it's data. So how would you protect the data? That's what your starting point. And then you have a lot of other stuff to consider, infrastructure and so on. So that will achieve and connected with it. This is all works in the cycle. So it's all interdependent. So there is a one thing or another thing. It actually requires another area to be touch base on. So ultimately, it actually maps it to your goals and requirements, what customer is asking for, what your organization is asking for, where your competition is, and how you want to fill the gaps. So there are a number of factors which can affect how you actually drive your strategy, how you adopt the principles, and how you manage your risk and compliance. With the compliance, one thing I would like to mention, always think about the industry or the verticals where you're actually interacting or you're implementing AI, Copilot agents, or anything like that, like, in the AI world, whether it's a machine learning, you're actually creating your own model and then hosting it. How would that work? So you need to start mapping that. And I saw that some of the questions in the chat, like, if you're in healthcare, there are different compliance you need to take care of. There are regulatory elements and so on. So if you are not aware, have a look at Trust Portal. Microsoft has released a fantastic portal with lots of audit reports. You just need to select or filter by Copilot or AI, and that can actually give you a lot of auditing report, and it tells you what Microsoft has already done. And it also falls into, in some area, as a shared responsibility. So you will definitely need to interact and enhance that element. Why it's a shared responsibility? Because if you're using Copilot as is, doing nothing, then it's okay. Microsoft manages a lot of things, but you also, like, when you start putting in your custom knowledge and everything, then you need to start thinking about, is a shared responsibility, how you're going to protect that knowledge, or whether that data is okay to share. And whoever actually accessing it, whether the user group or any of the teams they are accessing it, whether they are right people to access it. So there's a cycle goes on. You actually prepare for it, then build it, implement it, and monitor it. So that cycle goes on, and that's actually literally help you defining what you need in terms of compliance, regulatory, and so on. Other areas, if you look at it how it's been hosted, how your data residency needs to happen, which OpenAI or any services you are utilizing, that is a very, very important factor. I'll give you an example without mentioning any names. I was interacted with one of the project was in insurance sector. And they required certain agents to be developed to make their life easier, which used to take somewhere around anything a person for one contract to deal with anything between 7 to 25 days, depending on the type of contract, depending on the complexity. And with the agent implementation, the percentage of the time reduced, and that's the ROI they measured, it's gone down to nearly 70% less effort, less time, and the accuracy was 95%. So there are ways to monitor this and comply that, and you're not going to get it from day one. You need to give some time, and then you need to collect a lot of telemetry. In my opinion, with my experience, you need at least minimum of 3 months of telemetry. That gives you a good result. So you need a patience with that, and organization needs a patience with that as well. While implementing this, security is one of the critical factor. Trust me, and every project I've been involved with the AI, and there is a CISO, chief cybersecurity officer, they make your life hell, and that's you have to welcome it. And that is fair because they are nervous about it, and that's where you follow the practices and principles to actually do a kind of a checklist exercise and be more interactive, more intelligent on it, and that will really help you. Okay, so in terms of the adoption roadmap, so we got a framework, that's fine, but how would we adopt it? So there are different factors or different stages Microsoft has defined. That includes strategy and governance. So you need to start with the strategy first before you actually even kick off project discussion. So we define the AI vision and principles, and that's where this is the reason I also did mention about this is not IT project. This is the project has to be delivered by various area of the businesses. So it also the governance structure needs to be established. There is an IT, there is a stakeholder, there are a data team who actually maintains the data ownership and all the availability of the data in time, whether they have infrastructure which can support it or not, security, infrastructure. So there are various areas in that one. Now, there are a number of factors it needs to be considered, and it requires in each and every area to have the policies, practices, best practices, and effective a kind of a to-do list or checklist or policy list. Everything needs to be established, so that needs to be visioned out. That needs to be penciled in, first of all. Then you can start adopting the Microsoft Responsible AI Standard, have a cross-check against it, whether it's it's a fairness is there, it's all the factor of the security privacy is there, and so on. Then you fall into the risk and compliance, and that's where you have all the impact assessment. You need to conduct multiple impact assessment that includes data, to the security, to the data residency, encryption, all the accessibility, and all the kind of elements. And then map to the NIST AI risk assessment, risk management framework. There is a dedicated framework which is provided by NIST. NIST is organization, not-for-profit organization, defines all these policies, and that really helps you understand about the security, how the best security can be defined for an organization. And then you have a regulatory alignment. If you are delivering AI projects for the finance sector, obviously you have FCA in UK. There are different countries has a different regulatory bodies in place, so you need to actually comply with them. So every industry has one or less, or more or less, there are some regulatory alignment needs to be done. And then you go into the design and development. You got development and monitoring. Monitoring is kind of super important here. AI and the agent and all the implementation, even including just a standard Copilot, it generates lots and lots of logs. And the logs needs to be fed back into Azure Monitor or somewhere like whichever the robust adoption you have done in your organization. It needs to be fed back into that. That has to go and map with any sorts of SIEM applications, SIEM. So in a Microsoft world, we have a Sentinel. So Sentinel can actually give you in a real-time threat mapping and analyzing that there are any impact on the data, there are any impact on our agent, there are any impact on people are doing something they shouldn't be doing. So all the monitoring is quite important. But that's the security side. But monitoring also important to improve your agent, improve your AI implementation. What happens if you create an agent, if you implement it, your users are using it, but slowly it degrading the usability, or the people are not really interacting with the agent? You need to understand why. It's probably because it's not giving the result they're looking for, or it's making it difficult. The prompts are not right, or it doesn't understand the prompt. It's continuously failing. There are a lot of factors affecting that. So that also is a part of your governance practice, where you need to start thinking about how you're going to monitor, what are the tooling you're going to use, how effectively it's going to be used, who's going to monitor, what are your control places, procedures. If any kind of issue happens or threats are being identified, what will be your action? And that includes the X factor, X matter incidents as well, which is like you have to literally act on it within minutes. And then you have a culture and training. I actually see that is in this current era is the biggest factor, biggest element. One is the culture, adopting the AI, be ready for the AI. It's one thing. And the second thing is about knowing what you can get out of it. The one question I get asked, and I want to ask you, is how many of you had that question that, what can I do with AI? How many you can say that? You can just give a thumbs up. I'm pretty sure everyone heard that question from your customer saying, okay, what can I achieve from AI? Because they don't know. They literally don't know. And it's not their fault, because this fast-moving world, education is quite important. And that's why Microsoft also investing a lot into the education. You probably have noticed there are lots of series of Copilot training. There are lots of business user trainings, and many of you, I can see on a LinkedIn, many of you have conducted that, or passed the exams like AB 900, AB 730, 731. So which is fantastic. It's actually driving you towards all this basic area of that. So knowledge is quite important. Training is important. And also, after that, you need to have the stakeholder engagement, which is quite critical, and transparency of reporting. So you need a full transparency on reporting, whether it's been successful, how, where it's failing, what are the steps been taken to actually make it recover from that. Okay. There are Microsoft's support for the building AI responsibly. There are a number of things are available. So you will see in terms of all our responsible AI pillars of factors, safety and security to quality to custom, any kind of areas, very customized built-in evaluators you need to implement, whether it's SDK or other framework or simulators. These are all the different things available. Appreciate there are a lot of content here, and I would be happy to share some of the links later on so you can read about it. But there's a lot to go through that. Just looking at the quick time check, so I will be speeding up on certain things, but feel free to reach out to me or feel free to post any questions you have, and we'll be happy to support. But you can actually see in all this area where you have the vulnerability management to the supporting and multiple areas of the security and safety. So security is a one thing, but the safety is another thing. You don't want your users to start prompting certain things which is harmful to others. It's maybe hate and unfairness or something like that. So that you need to protect in your custom agents or AI Foundry agents or any open AI services you're utilizing, because you ultimately has you're part of the shared responsibility structure there. Okay. We'll go to the next one. Similar, it's a bit extended further in terms of the content safety side. So you have some of the areas which is indirect prompt injections. You want to protect XPI, spotlighting, Defender. Defender is actually a very, very good tool and really enhancing towards AI. So that is something really help you protecting those vulnerable areas. So I did ask previously a question, how many of you know Cloud Adoption Framework? And this is what the Cloud Adoption Framework, and it has an element of flavor in it now. So AI Adoption Framework is now have the stages, which is called AI Strategy, AI Plan, AI Ready, AI Govern AI, Secure AI, and Manage AI. And there is a cycle goes in. So you have the readiness there, you have a plan there, you have a strategy there. But now once you start the actual implementation and releasing those AI services to your users, that's where your governance comes into place. You have the iterative processes, you have the security area responsibility, and then management of the AI. How are you going to enhance it? How are you going to make sure that there is nothing has been broken and so on? So as I said, there is not much difference to it. And this is what something I would like to quickly switch to that service, or the page where Microsoft has actually produced. So you will see there's something similar what I have presented. It's the same kind of slide. And there are lots of checklists available. So what I would do, in terms of the projects I have implemented, I've been involved with this, and this has been more or less about saying 90% very, very effective. 90% in the sense because every organizations are different and there are some variations you need to do. So example, your AI readiness, have you chosen an architecture? What architecture would like to go for? Give you an example. So I had to produce this for that same insurance company where customer wanted to understand what are the options I have in terms of the architecture. I don't want just one option. I want to compare something multiple options, which has an impact on my deliverables as well, or my requirement. So to tick box all the requirement, we had to use AI Foundry, OpenAI, and put down the multiple services in the architecture, understanding how and where, how effectively it's going to be utilized, how it's going to be interconnected, what are the message exchange going to be happen, how the security protocol is going to work, and everything. Now, to do that, some of the services, and this is a fact, if you want to install and you're working with a sensitive organization who wants to have the data residency in, example, UK. Now, you don't have all the services available in UK. So you have to lean towards the other region to adopt those services. When you actually do that, that's where your challenges starts as an architect, because you need to then prove it, how it's going to be secure, how the data getting processed, and all this factor area. So give you an example, we had to use certain type of OpenAI services, and it is right now, it's available in Sweden Central. So then we have to do the governance and the security checks and other stuff, going through the different strategy, amending the strategy, and show them that this is possible using this approach where the Microsoft can have as much as time to establish those same services in the UK. Until it's available, organizations are not going to just wait for it. So they have to implement the services. So they're just going to go and say, okay, I'm happy to go ahead, but prove it, it's secure. So we had to put down private links, we had to put down VNets, we had to put down NSGs, and all this kind of things, everything is possible to protect that environment. And that's where your architecture pillar comes, is a cost. Cost goes up. And So you need to balance out with the ROI. So there are some of the modifications you have to do with the checklist given, and it's quite important, like quite comprehensive. So let me just share this link with you. And I'll switch back to, sorry, with a single screen, it's very difficult to maintain. So this is what I've just put down like a screenshot of the checklist here, and this is where it's kind of very, very important. So if you look at that particular framework, it gives you a very comprehensive details and knowledge about it. But if you do have any question, please connect with me and hopefully I will be able to help you. When you define the strategy, you have a couple of things. It's very, very critical. It's a decision tree. And I get this question asked almost on an average every couple of days by somebody or another customer, or say, what do I use? Do I need a Copilot? Do I need a Copilot Web? Do I need the Microsoft 365 Copilot? Do I need a custom agent to build? Do I need Azure OpenAI services? Do I need to have the support for the AI Foundry? And this is a kind of a decision tree. It's a sample decision tree, I would call it, because there are a lot more other factors you need to consider. And this is how you can build a decision tree for your customer and organization and show them this is where you can drive the strategy, that if you have this type of scenario, use these services. If you have this type of scenario, use that other one. Possibly, if you are an architect, you're probably following these patterns, anti-patterns, and all the structure, which pattern to match, because one single pattern can integrate and send a message to multiple systems, but there are multiple other patterns do the same job. But in some scenario, one pattern works better than other. So similar way, you can make a decision tree, and that's how you can actually find out or suggest or recommend what is best based on the strategy. And it also established robust data governance to ensure scalability and integrity, and obviously the responsible AI practices needs to be put in place. Those are all the information available on this link I have shared. It just need to find into a little bit deeper. So I'm going to skip this because we have only 15 minutes, and I want to show you some of this different areas, and we want to leave some time for Q&A. So that's govern AI, secure AI. In that link on the left-hand side, you have a menu where you can actually deep dive into it. But there are terminologies which may make a little bit difficult. So do let me know if you want to do a little bit deep dive. Now it comes to how do I secure it? What are the tools I need to use? And there are a number of things or tools available which you can use. So if you like to have the asset discovery, why would I use that? Because I want to use a number of documents, teams, meetings, recordings, transcripts. I want to use any everything available within my organization and boundaries. You will need to use Azure Resource Graph Explorer, and there are a bunch of APIs. It's growing. Every day I see there is something I see either variation or the new services are available time to time, and that's you can use to interact with those services. That includes SharePoint, Exchange, your Teams, Office 365, everything, even Entra as well. So have a look at search for Graph Explorer, and you will have a great experience of exploring quite a lot of APIs. I've lost count of it. Previously I started with counting is about 50 odd services, but now it's grown quite wide. Then you have a security monitoring. The monitoring is the best you can do in the Microsoft world at the moment. Is you can use Defender. You can also use a SIEM product called Sentinel, and that's how you can actually implement the security monitoring. Identity management is Microsoft Managed Identity. It's something which is recommended. Obviously, you can actually go into the service principles where they're possible, but if you want to make it more secure and robust, Managed Identities is the way forward. And then you have other services like virtual networks, blob storage, Microsoft Purview for the classification of the data, and so on. there is an element of Azure API management. So if you want to actually enhance your services using MCP servers, API management could be your best friend at that time. Like, if there are not ready to use consumable MCP servers are available and you want to create your own, it's recommended to go through the API management. So question here, how many of you have seen this slide? And this is where is everything resides. Anyone? Thumbs up? Okay, I'll go with the assumption that you haven't seen this slide before. This is a very good global 360-degree view picture for robust, secure, and compliant hosting platform for your AI requirement. So it again, adopts as we always say, it adopts with Azure, because ultimately all the AI services and the Copilot is hosted in Azure cloud. So it directly or indirectly impacts that. So you have three factors, which is the security, compliance, and governance. So everything goes together hand in hand. So we cannot separate anything out. So you have to have all of these areas. There are more or less impact on that. So some of the areas which some organization may not need, depending on the requirement, use cases. If you have a chat module just to understand about the customer's requirement or filing a complaint, then you probably may not need certain type of complex policy management or so on. So those are the balancing. You need to find the best balance based on the customer's requirement, and that includes for the security identity management. We discuss about that, DLP, and data encryption. So encryption is quite important, and the encryption is about all the data rather than encrypted knowledge sources, because there are two different things, so not to be confused with. Because if you have an encrypted knowledge sources which your Copilot or AI services doesn't understand or cannot decrypt, it's not going to be any useful. So that you have to filter out yourself beforehand, saying like, okay, these are the data which has a flag as confidential, it has a flag as critical for the business or anything like that. You just don't want to use that, because why would you actually use and utilize the energy and effort from the Copilot, which consumes a lot of resources out of it. Compliance wise, data privacy, government hosting, if you are dealing with those kind of services or the customers, you need that government hosting, which is G-Cloud. That's another one. Compliance standard, again, different areas of the industry, the verticals you are working with, you need to have the compliance standard to be implemented, and the governance has a lot of area. There might be a question you want to ask whether you want to use the tooling like COE, Center of Excellence, and the best practices like defined by that kind of tooling. You want to actually elaborate that as very early stage of your project implementation. Afterwards, it can be done, but it just makes a lot of challenge for you to put down the practice in the COE. System health, activity logging, usage analytics, all this about the monitoring, and then you have unified administrations. You need a single place to administrate everything in terms of what is going on with your data and compliance and so on. Okay, so Microsoft Purview, which actually manages the compliance. We again, I will try and skip this because there are a lot of things. It's repetitive, and you know this, how that works. So there are data discovery, classification, protection against data leaks, where the governance comes under the ingestion and model training and development and deployment and monitoring and so on. So there are life cycle management you need to do. Okay. And again, there are some of the, I'm skipping it because that we have already thought about it. But before we go into the Q&A, I would like to demonstrate something. So allow me a minute. So there is a one thing you heard about called Microsoft Agent 365. And there are other services are available. What I'm showing you is in an Enter ID. Now you can see a preview feature called Agent ID. And what Agent ID does, it actually puts your agent, every agent you create under this tenant will be listed into this area. What it will do, it will give you the good details around how many agents are recently created, how many are unmanaged, how many are active, how many doesn't even compliant with the identity. So this is where you can put on policies in practice. So say this is my environment, which is obviously like, we use a lot of for the trial and test and everything. I have 101 agents without identities. Is it secure? No, it's not. So I need to put down a policy to block those agents. So even with it, with the practicing 258 agent has been created, and some of the agents that includes not only the custom agent, that includes like you have any agent came from the Business Central, Power Platform, Dynamics 365 CE. You will see all of those agents in this one as well. And then you have a agent blueprint section where you can actually see how many blueprints have been submitted, any agent collections overview with any global quarantined. So if you actually block any agents, you can actually see how many are blocked by the policy or you manually blocked it. But when you actually look at the identities, this is the one of the factor is quite important. So you have to see the what are in the active, and you will see there are sales copilot, D365 sales agents. There are some of them, and you can see the custom agents like agent one. You will see lots of other agents and the custom agents, everything together. So it makes the management a lot easier. So this is the one thing you will need to see. What are these is just nothing but your enterprise application. So if I click on it, it will lean into my enterprise apps, and this is where all the policy restrictions and everything, proxy, sign-in logs, roles and administration, everything I can maintain from here. So you can see that that's nothing but just an enterprise app. Okay. The other area which I would like to share, and we haven't got much time to discuss about it, but if you have a option to do, choose, you subscribe for the Frontier Preview program. There are some restrictions and not everyone can subscribe to it or be a part of it. But if you are a part of it, you have something called early overview of the preview of the program. And there is a one thing which is Agent 365 gives you is about all the stakeholder for Agent 365. These are the one can access the various area and fulfill certain their objectives. So IT admin can literally say, how do I unlock agents to deliver impact safely and at a scale? And that kind of configuration area or the details are available. Either you can actually search for Microsoft Agent 365. You will land into this documentation that has all the graphics charts you need. There are security compliance, threat protection, data security, and other different areas, and the tooling have been described. So I would say have a look at it. It's quite good knowledgeable here. The other area I would like to mention about, if you haven't used Copilot Studio Kit, explore it. Explore this. It's been built by or developed and delivered by PowerCat team. And it also gives you a lot of good telemetry and the inventory of your agents. So this is another, or maybe I wouldn't call it, it's a replacement of the tool, but it gives this tool probably better with a certain KPIs, conversion KPIs, compliance hubs, any testing emulations or test runs, all these kind of things are better here. But where you have to enforce the policies, you need to use the agent ID and Microsoft 365, like Microsoft Agent 365. So have a look at this one. There are the different KPIs, SharePoint synchronization, prompt advisor, lot of information are available. It goes really deep dive into it. So have a look at the Copilot Studio guidance here, governance. I will actually share this link as well. And we have one last thing to show, the monitoring the agent. Again, with the Studio Kit, you have one of the great feature called Agent Inventory, and that Agent Inventory actually tells you how many generative AI utilization is there, how many actions you are doing, how many AI builder prompts you have used, and this is a great for the licensing control as well. So if you have certain way of understanding, like say how many messages are consumed obviously generative AI, it's a simple rule. If you do a simple prompt, it's one message going there, one message coming back. If you use a generative AI, two messages going in, two messages coming back. Actually, generative AI coming back only. So these are the one. There is a message calculator is available. If you are keen on learning about those message count calculator, do let me know. I'll be happy to share those links as well. And you can find what is you going to pay for any agent creation, management, and other so on, like implementation area. So this is kind of really useful. I hope this session has been quite useful, and apologies I had to literally rush into it because of the limited time period, but we also wanted to listen to Kevin and Zoe, so it's all great. Are there any questions?
Yes, question, Narayan. You showed the Agent 365, you showed the Copilot Chat and things like that. What's the and there's also the one in the Power Platform Admin Center as well, Copilot Studio Copilot Studio. Is there a definitive, like, is there like a purpose for each one, or like that you should be going for? Is it a persona for each one that you see, or is it more of a case of they're all additive and they can add certain things depending on your scenarios?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I followed that. Is it in a Power Platform, a Copilot Studio? What was the question about, Matt? Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So in the Power Platform Admin Center, there is the Copilot Studio monitoring capabilities. The Copilot Chat from Power Chat also has the similar sort of capabilities. Yeah. Then Agent 365 gives you more access to more agents and things. Is that more of a persona-based thing? Like if you're a tenant administrator, Agent 365 gives you all the information from those other things. And if you're a Power Platform administrator, you just see those things? Or is it kind of, there are different pieces of information in each one that is that important for people to look at all of them? Because there's so many places to get the same pieces of information, it looks like.
Exactly, yeah. So there is a little bit of confusion when I was actually talking to Agent 365 team. Their view was, it's simple, like, when we actually look at a Power Platform is something, if you are talking about the single tenant environment within our organization, and within that Power Platform tenant, which we have all the environments and the agents, activities are monitored. And that's particular with any agent you have published. That's one thing. Without publishing the agent, you're not going to get the agent activity in that one. That is a Power Platform limitation. Where as soon as you create an agent, not even published, it start getting the telemetry in agent ID. So that's simple first thing, because it gets the agent ID allocated and it registered as an enterprise application or even app registration. So that's a kind of telemetry over there. When we talked about Agent 365, so Microsoft Agent 365, what I have been told is there is a behind the scene SDK being implemented, and that SDK actually collects a lot more telemetry than it's actually presented. So there are a lot more things are happening in that area, which is like, we have a limited access at this stage, but again, it's like, it's only exposed for the Frontier program through, whoever access to that. So we don't have the full visibility on that, and it's just launched in November. Yeah, November last year.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more clarity needed, but I can 100% align with your confusion there, which is like, oh, I'm getting like telemetry here, I'm getting telemetry there. I need another tool called like Studio Kit, and I got this another area which is a lot of telemetry. There are some variations everywhere. So probably at this stage, our role will be to collect information from everywhere.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Also, there's a question in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Apart from Purview, oh, sorry, Jory.
Yeah, no, absolutely fine. Apart from via Purview, is there any governance control, access to Copilot teams, meeting, summary data, for example, across an organization, is this data still stored in Dataverse or somewhere? Data stored in custom agent. If you're creating an agent through the Copilot Studio, then only it's stored there. If you have a Copilot, and which is a Microsoft 365 Copilot, and that is actually works with the Copilot teams. In that one, again, you need to clarify here. With the teams, you have created an agent and published in a team. That's one area. The other area is Microsoft 365 agent. So there are two things.
Yeah.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, hello. I can sort of confirm. It's always question this from people who get the Copilot license or start using Copilot. You know, if I do a summary of a Teams meeting and I have some personal identifiable data in there, you know, where is this summary then stored, and is this secure? You know, can we sort of govern this data?
Yeah.
You know, so before any agents, it's all like Copilot, you know, M365 Copilot licensing.
Absolutely. So Microsoft 365 Copilot license, there is a promise from Microsoft, says your data stays within your tenant. So it does store in Dataverse if you have a custom agent. If not, it stores into Exchange server. If I'm not wrong, it stores against your Exchange ID. So it did vary a bit in between. So it stays within your tenant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, like, you know, it's up to you how much compliance and enforcement you want to do, whether within your teams and chats, you want to restrict the permission, like, you know, restrict the information. Maybe you want to mask it. You want to stop sharing those information by classification. Then you need purview.
Thank you.
Great. Is there any question? A little bit about the time, but I'm happy to be here to answer any questions.
I guess not. Guess that's it.
Great.
Thank you very much for that, Narayan. It's a very complicated subject, and you managed to explain it quite well, even to a simpleton like me. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone else who attended. We'll try and get the video up on the YouTube channel in a couple of days. And yeah, anything else, please reach out to us. But I hope you all have a good evening. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.